high number of unimmunized children in some of the local government areas. We currently implement a project called Boost in Lagos and Kano states, which is working with the government, the local governments, and community structures to reduce number zero dose and unimmunized children.
Strike action is also a concern. How do we support? We have what we call migration policy, where the government have promised that the health worker who work at the rural area and how to reach area will be given incentive. That has not been implemented. So these are bottlenecks, poor training. And when people work and you don't engage them in decision making, they are not on the table. When you are taking decision, you just take the decision, you create the policy and give them to implement. Is also a bottleneck. So when are we going to have a nation where we are going to have a co-creation policy, where we bring the health worker at the field, at the front line, the nurses, the midwife?
The dream of home ownership is becoming an elusive goal for many Nigerians, particularly in Kebbi state capital. The skyrocketing cost of building materials and labor has placed the construction of even modest homes far beyond the financial capabilities of the average citizens. What was once considered a symbol of stability and personal achievement is now increasingly viewed as an unattainable luxury. Now, this next report has more detail.
Once a haven for affordable living, Kebbi is now facing a housing crisis as construction costs soar beyond the reach of most residents. What used to be the cost of building a modest two-bedroom home has now climbed to around 7 million naira. Standard residential houses fall between 15 million naira and 40 million naira, while duplexes can cost as much as 100 million naira. For multi-story buildings, estimates range from 200 million naira upward, depending on the scale and finishing. Faruku Dansabo, a principal partner at a construction firm based in the city, attributes the surge to multiple factors.
2 to 10% increment. And I believe this is the only way to calculate Nigeria. It's a worldwide issue. Nowadays, people don't want to, it's not for you to buy a house, but to build one because of the very good rates. And for example, an area that we used to buy 6,000 naira is now 12,000 naira. That is more than 100% increase. And I think 2,150 or so. Okay, we used to buy bag of cement 3,300 naira. Now a bag of cement is around 9,500 naira. It's more than, let's say, twice.
Construction sites that once buzzed with activity now lie eerily silent as more people are forced to abandon projects midway. Even traders in building materials are feeling. Artisans, laborers, and small-scale suppliers once
go to the other counties. The every company does not have a right to increase or decrease the price unless if you get the permission from the county. But rather than the Nigeria, every company in Nigeria have the power and right just to increase or decrease without even notification to the customers. So that's the first problem. And this, according to me, is about the dollar rate exchange.
Even mortgage options provide no real comfort, with high interest rates and strict eligibility shutting out many aspiring homeowners. The managing director of Kebbi State Home Savings and Loans Limited noted that soaring inflation in the cost of building materials has made it nearly impossible for civil servants to construct homes, relying solely on their salaries. He emphasized that for many, the only realistic path to home ownership lies in accessing mortgage loans, which provide more flexible and manageable repayment terms compared to building out of pocket.
The only option that is left for the civil servant is to liaise with primary mortgage banks like TV360 Home Savings and Loans Limited, where we can assist the civil servant to use his 25% retirement savings account balance as equity contribution, and also finance his housing demand and separate the payment over decades, over a long period of time that the civil servant can afford it.
As building costs continue to soar and financial solutions fall short, a growing number of Nigerians, especially in Birnin-Kebbi, are left asking a difficult question. Is the dream of home ownership slipping out of reach? Unless decisive steps are taken to improve affordability and expand access to financing, that dream may remain out of reach for millions of citizens. Joy Utejim, TV360, Lagos.
Welcome back. Now, in case you missed the end of a news bulletin or for more update, you can catch us on Miss World TV and AVO TV or log on to website on www.tv360nigeria.com. You can also follow us on our social media platforms on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at TV360 Nigeria, or download our mobile app on Google Play Store, Huawei App Gallery, and Apple Store. On Facebook, we're at TV360 Online. Welcome back. And on business, the Nigerian-Indonesia Chamber of Commerce and Industry (NICCI) has projected that the volume of trade between Nigeria and Indonesia will rise to at least $5 billion by the time the 2024 official figures are released. President of NICCI Ismail Balogun stated this at a press briefing in Lagos. He said that there has been progressive increase in the trade volume between Nigeria and Indonesia since 2019, as Indonesia buys lots of goods from Nigeria worth over $2 billion annually, as they buy electronics, fast-moving consumer goods, household consumables, and pharmaceuticals. Trade volume in 2019 was at about $1.9 billion between both countries, rising to $2.0 billion in 2020, taking over South Africa as Indonesia's African largest trading partner. And Nigeria's capital market is set for a major transformation following the enactment of the Investment and Security Act 2025, signed into law by President Bola Tinubu. The new law replaces the 2007 legislation and introduces sweeping reforms aimed at enhancing regulatory oversight, protecting investors, and stimulating market growth. Now, in response, the Capital Market Solicitors Association (CMSA) hosted its annual summit in Abuja, bringing together key stakeholders to discuss the opportunities the new framework presents. A major focus was on the role of capital markets in addressing Nigeria's energy subsidy challenges by attracting private investment to reduce government spending and improve energy access. The summit also highlighted the constitutional amendment that moves electricity governance from the exclusive to the concurrent legislative list, allowing states to participate directly in power sector.
Based on the things that have been highlighted, that informed the decision to tackle power based on the ISA 2025, where we have a new legislation that gives an array of ways to raise funds. And we said, how do we help the power sector, have conversation around the power sector to unlock that conversation of, apart from traditional ways of raising money, which is loans, how can they tap into the power and the capital markets to ensure that that deficit is not only taken care of, it can also take care of new infrastructure. The power sector has been used for too long to the traditional way of raising funds. And based on the ISA 2025, I thought it was important as the CMSA to have conversations with respect to the power sector and unlocking conversations in that area of how we can make the capital markets attractive to the power sector.
The recent amendment of the Constitution, removing power from the exclusive list and taking it to the concurrent legislative list, which now opens up the space for subnationals to participate in this sector. Coupled with the fact that the Electricity Act was also amended and it has been made receptive for participation by subnationals in the sector. As it is, if you have had already some subnationals, some states of the Federation are gearing up to participate fully in this sector.
What people don't know is that there is a great subsidy in energy as well, a differential that needs to be resolved. And the capital market offers an opportunity to address it. It is a very, very vibrant market that can then make it unnecessary for the government to continue to support energy differentials between the production and the distribution of energy. And that would be great for us. So there will be a good price discovery. I actually believe that electricity prices will start going down and production will increase. There will be greater supply once there's a workable exchange where all that is. And I think that the market can resolve the issues rather than have government continually support the sector.
And oil prices fell on Monday as an easing of geopolitical risks in the Middle East and the prospect of another OPEC Plus output hike in August improved supply expectations amid persistent uncertainty over the outlook for global demand. Brent crude futures fell 12 cents to $67.65 a barrel ahead of the August contract expiring later on Monday. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude dropped 36 cents to $65.60 a barrel. Now, last week, both benchmarks posted their biggest weekly decline since March 2023, but they are set to finish higher in June with a second consecutive monthly gain of more than 5%. And on the global scene, the partial collapse of a traditional gold mine in Sudan's northeast has killed 11 miners and wounded 7 others, according to the state mining company, as a brutal civil war between the Sudanese Armed Force (SAF) and the Rapid Support Forces (RSF) is installed here. Since the war erupted in April 2023, both sides' war chests have been largely funded by Sudan's gold industry. In a statement released, the Sudanese Mineral Resource Company (SMRC) said that the collapse occurred in an artisan shaft in the Kish El Fanem mine over the weekend. And at least 2 firefighters were killed after gunmen ambushed emergency responders battling a wildfire on the mountain side of Kotenai County, Ideo, on Sunday. The blaze was still active when the law enforcement officers came under sniper fire during what officials describe as an ongoing and dangerous standoff. Authorities say an unknown number of civilians remain on the mountain as police continue to exchange gunfire with the shooter or shooters who have shown no sign of surrendering. The local sheriff during a press briefing confirmed the death and urged officers to take a shot to neutralize the threat when possible. The incident adds to the growing list of mass shootings in the United States, where gun violence remains a persistent crisis. And finally, on sport, Nigeria Super Falcons delivered a commanding performance, defeating Ghana 3-1 in their final friendly match before the 2024 Women's African Cup of Nations (AFCON) on Sunday. Played with intensity and flair, the match showcased Nigeria's attacking prowess and defensive resilience, setting a strong tone of the upcoming campaign. The Super Falcons asserted dominance early in the first half, and in the 34th minute, Chiwendu Uzoaso broke the deadlock, capitalizing on a well-worked move to put Nigeria 1-0 up. Also, the Confederation of African Football (CAF) has announced plans to unveil a brand new trophy for the 2025 Women's Africa Cup of Nations on Wednesday, July 2nd, just days ahead of the tournament kickoff in Morocco. According to a statement released, the launch is part of CAF's President Patrice Motsepe's broader vision to elevate women's football on the continent. The trophy will first be revealed across CAF's digital platforms, followed by a live activation event with title sponsor Total Energies later that evening. Now, this year's WAFCON, running from July the 5th to 26th, features 12 teams and significantly increased prize pool, up from $975,000 to $2.4 million. Nigeria, the most decorated team in WAFCON history, with 9 titles, headlines Group B alongside Botswana, Tunisia and Algeria. And that wraps up our bulletin of news now. Many thanks for watching. I'm Tamilore Akinkulie. See you again next time.
Opinions are free, facts are sacred, but truth is universal.
How, in practical terms, can we, for instance, de-escalate the tension?
Because when you go into public office, you must be ready to answer to the people.
We know where the enemy is. 3 places. The Lake Chad Basin, the border area between Nigeria and Cameroon, and then the Sambisa Forest.
On TV360, we give you a complete dose of everything. Opinion, facts, and undiluted truth.
I hardly believe what politicians have said in this part of the world.
A new Nigeria is possible, a future is possible.
We delve into the issues, dissect it so that you can understand it, use it to take action.
I don't think there's any need for any governor to look for grant for ranching.
TV360, dissecting the issues. Right in the middle of this forest in southwest Ogun State and inside the buildings below, a young generation of farmers in Nigeria is changing the face of farming and attracting young people to a venture many of them had not always liked. And 36-year-old Peter Okocha Jr., or PJ as he's fondly called, is leading the change. An economist by training before branching off into farming, PJ and his team are deploying a unique method of farming known as aeroponics to grow cash crops, starting out here in August of 2017.
What's taking place is that you're seeing agricultural technology. It's a disruptive form of technology. It's called aeroponics, whereby the plants are grown in a soilless medium. Essentially, there's no soil, and the roots of the plants, which are underneath these boxes, are being misted with nutrients and so forth. So everything is within a controlled environment, and it's fully automated as well.
Their focal crop is yam, a very popular edible starchy tuber mainly cultivated in Africa and exported across the world.
So the yam subsector of the overall agricultural sector, it's a very lucrative sector. But the problem is that the requisite inputs haven't been applied. And so what we're doing in this program is saying that, okay, we know that there's a sector that currently has a value, according to the Food and Agricultural Organization based in Rome, of about $13 billion US. But with the requisite inputs, the yam subsector will grow from $13 billion to about $19 billion. And this is Nigeria alone. So what we've said is that, okay, we know also that Nigeria accounts for 60% of the global production of yam, but yet we don't have inputs such as seed. And as you know, seeds, or the lab and the seed essentially is the genesis of the agricultural sector. So what we're doing is that in conjunction with IITA, we get clean seeds, essentially from IITA, from the lab, and then we come and we transplant to the system here.
The system is a greenhouse where the yam seeds are grown in this row of boxes using aeroponics, more like growing yams in the air. Now just take a look at these leaves. Every leaf you see here is a potential tuber of yam. So to get a sense of how many tubers of yam we have here, you just have to do a count of all the leaves we have here. It's something very massive.
We have about 10 boxes, and in those boxes, all fully automated aeroponic systems, and it leads to high propagation of plants. And so we're actually massively propagating, and it will continue like this for a 3-year period of just continuous growth, non-stop. After the propagation, what you'll see is that it will essentially form a canopy, very bush-like and so forth. And from there, we'll start vine cutting. And from the vine cutting, we'll cut these, we'll put them into essentially polyethylene bags and with a nutrient solution, and they'll stay in there for about a month. And essentially what it is that because this is in a controlled environment, we're taking them out and saying, okay, we're preparing you for a month to get used to the external elements, and they'll be there for a month, and then we eventually take them to the field.
This is the field where they are brought and planted into the soil so the seeds could develop fully.
These right now currently have been here for about 3 weeks, and we're still planting now, and they'll be here for a total of about 3 months. And after about 3 months, we'll get seeds of about 250 to about 500 grams. And those are the seeds that we'll provide to farmers. And farmers can then go and plant directly, and it will give them the ware yam sizes of 1 kg, 2 kg and above.
One of the smallholder farmers who's been using the yam seeds from the aeroponics farm is Awofe Ademola. He's been into traditional yam farming all his adult life and says the yam seeds from the aeroponics farm have seen his output more than double and safe from pests.
There's a lot of difference between the two methods because the new method doesn't get infected by pests and it doesn't change color like the traditional planted yams. It will remain fresh as it is wherever it is kept. Their yam when harvested is almost 3 times or 4 times more than ours. When we plant one of our own seed yam, it equates to 4 of theirs.
Habibat Umar is the only female in the group. She's one of those overseeing the day-to-day running of the smart farm. She says she's fascinated by the whole idea of it.
One of the things that fascinates me most is the fact that we can go all year round producing food. More like you can cheat God's creation and having to depend on the rain and all. And everybody wants to eat all the time. You don't want to wait for when the rain is here. And so the fact that we can provide the food all year round, it's everything to me.
Even though all may seem fine, PJ and his team are battling familiar challenges to keep their operations running.
More attention needs to be given to the sector. There needs to be more financing put in place. We need to have adequate land laws in place and to ensure that we can optimize all the arable land that we have and so forth. There needs to be insurance. We need to have better road networks. Power is a major impediment as well. Essentially we have our own solar system, as well as the fact that we also have a generator as well for backup. So power cost is also a major impediment as well. So all of these things, if we can put all these things in place, then the sector will boom for sure.
PJ and his team are setting themselves up as role models for young people. In a country where youth unemployment is high, they are hoping to inspire many within their age bracket to take to their kind of farming technique.
We need women to even join this chain because this is not all about. We've gone past the stage of waiting for men doing it. So why wouldn't I want to be part of it? Like let people say, oh, she's a woman, she's doing it. Do you understand? So women have to join this chain.
And my message for the youth is saying that, listen, with the use of technology and disruptive methods such as this, essentially you can run your farm on your laptop, on your computer and so forth and everything. I mean, it's all automated. So essentially this makes agriculture cool. It makes agriculture sexy. I mean, you have the technological components to it and so forth and everything. So it's not just the conventional, back-breaking work in the field and so forth and everything like that. There are also these components as well that will make it appealing to the youth. So I say, listen, join me. We have a nation to feed and we have a nation to grow as well.
Opinions are free, facts are sacred, but truth is universal.
How, in practical terms, can we, for instance, de-escalate the tension?
When you go into public office, you must be ready to answer to the people.
We know where the enemy is. 3 places. The Lake Chad Basin, the border area between Nigeria and Cameroon, and then the Sambisa Forest.
On TV360, we give you a complete dose of everything. Opinion, facts, and undiluted truth.
I hardly believe what politicians say in this part of the world.
A new Nigeria is possible, a future is possible.
We delve into the issues, dissect it so that you can understand it, use it to take action.
I don't think there's any need for any governor to look for grant for ranching.
TV360, dissecting the issues.
J'ai le virus de planter des arbres. Ça me plaît beaucoup. Ici, c'était un dépotoir d'ordures ménagères. Du fait que les villageois ne savaient pas qu'est-ce que c'est que l'importance de la forêt, ils prenaient leurs ordures et les déposaient. En ce moment, je leur ai sensibilisé de leur dire que l'arbre doit vivre comme nous, donc il ne faut pas salir l'arbre. C'est ce que nous a donné l'impact positif pour avoir ici un périmètre pour cultiver. Le 2 mai 2005, on a allé voir les eaux et forêts qui nous ont attribué 500 mètres carrés qu'on a initié. Intégrer les femmes dans un AGR. Et avec ça, on a choisi le maraîchage. On était à 3 hectares, mais on ne cultive pas sous la haute tension. Et on nous a déguerpi et on est à 2 hectares.
Si on fait travailler ces femmes dans cette forêt, c'est pour qu'elles prennent également soin de cette forêt. Non seulement ça permet de fertiliser les sols, mais ça permet également de les autonomiser économiquement à travers la vente de fruits.
Tous les arbres fruitiers que vous voyez, c'est nous qui l'avons planté. Chaque citronnier, on y récoltait plus de 60 kilos.
Merci beaucoup. Que ce sont des dames très dynamiques, des dames très braves, qui subissent de plein fouet les effets des changements climatiques. Nous, on vient en rescousse pour informer, pour sensibiliser sur des solutions, la promotion de bonnes pratiques. Pour les cas pires, c'est également l'apparition de nouveaux parasites. Et ça, on le vit ici au quotidien et un peu partout au Sénégal. Ça participe également à la dégradation des sols. Justement, c'est la raison pour laquelle nous, on essaye de trouver comme solution prioritaire aujourd'hui le reboisement massif dans les périmètres maraîchers avec des espèces qui sont répulseurs aussi.
Nos projets d'avenir, si les femmes l'acceptent, on veut faire un projet de pépinière dans les alvéoles pour alléger les travaux.
La femme est à l'image de la terre. Ce sont des vrais écoféministes qui sont là, qui sont engagés pour la protection et la préservation de l'environnement.
La forêt, c'est nous et nous, c'est la forêt.
If the essence of government is the security and welfare of the people, then as long as there's plenty, poverty is evil. Affluent poverty. That's what we live in Nigeria. We're living in affluent poverty. The news recently broke that a British international primary school, charter house located somewhere in Lekki, Lagos, was charging as much as 42 million per annum as school fees for its pupil in a poor country like ours. However, the school management issued a statement clarifying the claim that the school fees are currently 26 million naira per annum and not 42 million. Oh boy, now wow. 26 million as school fees per annum for Pekin when they primary school in a poor country like Nigeria, where many states can't even pay 30,000 naira as minimum wage. And many of our public schools in the country are public slums. And unemployment rate is frightening as fraud is now celebrated as a profession. 26 million. Well, I know some of you will go to defend them now. They say, if education is expensive, try ignorance. And others will say, well, it's the school is attended by expatriate, kids of expatriate. Even at that, not before Nigeria that they make the money, whether they pay the expatriate salary. Must education be beyond the poor in a country like Nigeria, where ostentatious lifestyle is the attitude of government? So if you pay 26 million naira for a kid in primary school, that means you go pay 62 million naira for that kid in secondary school. And maybe 112 million for the same child when he enter university. And then the child will graduate, there won't be jobs. And then you send the child abroad. Is that not overhead? Go to countries like Poland, Germany, Czech Republic. Charles University and the University of Warsaw are some of the cheapest universities where top-tier programs are offered at an affordable rate. Although universities in all the Nordic countries are relatively affordable, but public universities in Norway remain free for everybody from both within and outside the EU, with the exception of a few specialized programs. But here in Nigeria, go to Edo University in Iyamo. It is ranked as the most expensive state-owned university in Nigeria. Yet, the other state university, Edo State University in Ekpoma, under the previous administration of Godwin Obaseki, suffered from lack of infrastructure and adequate funding until the recent administration in Edo. So what that means is simply this: rich separated themselves from the poor. Now, wow. How many people still remember, the craze those days about British International School? But with the current school fees of 4.6 million and 6.8 million, for boarding, I guess the super rich now, when they pay 26 million as school fees for primary school children, would think, oh, that's poor. So came Chatham House, and yet government go look the other way in a poor country. We know job despite the expensive school, and you expect people not to steal? Yeah, well, what am I even saying? What can government do? When even Nile University in Abuja, where most of our government officials and Abuja politicians, they go get their degree, especially in law, no come cheap. And even some churches, when collect tithe and offering from members to build schools, most of these members that contributed the tithe and offering cannot afford to send their children to these schools. So what do you expect? Even recently, remember Wigwe University in Isiokpo in Rivers State was in the news, not for the death of its founder, but as the most expensive university in Nigeria, with school fees ranging from 12 million naira. And some of these fees are priced in dollars. And our government is pretending to be looking for solution to our dollar problem, while they turn a blind eye to this open segregation in a country where our collective welfare is supposed to be their responsibility. Oh boy, to your tent, oh Israel. You won't blame them though. Don't you see how we openly spray monies in parties as if money is going out of faction? So that's why they think we are rich. Yet, there are no roads to our villages and insecurity is ravaging the country. Even as our public officials drive around our dilapidated road and public slums in exotic and expensive cars, the cars will neither produce nor assemble here. Yet, with retinue of aides and barrage of mobile police, where the future generations are either emerged in prostitution, hookup, or fraud, I beg no verse, yahoo, as a means of livelihood. Outrageous display of affluent poverty, you would say. This is the reason why some properties without any special infrastructure around them in some area, some area never get road, apart from the fact that there's so much money to waste, are so expensive and priced in dollars in places like Maitama, Sokoro, and environs in Abuja, and Banana Island, and in some places in Lagos, in a poor country like Nigeria, than properties in Miami waterfront in rich America. So no matter how much we all condemn or criticize these things, it will not go away, because the reality is that most Nigerians want to be like these people who are physically rich but mentally poor. As we only criticize them when we are poor, but the moment we become rich or hold public office, we will create segregation, poor and the rich. We move over to expensive slums like Lekki, send our children to special schools, meant only for the rich, occupy government positions and steal public funds, ride expensive cars without identifiable or sustainable means of livelihood, and display wealth irresponsibly and spray endlessly at parties. That's just our life. So it no go stop. So if I like, anyway, check those occupying public offices today. Between 15 and 12 years ago, they were mostly critics of the attitude of the government then. But today, they are all in government and repeating exactly what they once criticized, even if not even worse. So I will therefore advocate, until we see government as a vehicle for public good, social justice, creating job opportunities, infrastructural development, equality, and a vehicle for impacting our community positively, people will continue to chase wealth, material possession, and position as a way of life and end up not living at all. Government must take job creation as a priority and endeavor to consciously and consensuously celebrate and compensate hard work and create regulation in every sector to avoid a society of wealth without work. The attitude where government officials are at the forefront of displaying affluence in the midst of poverty must be discouraged, as it pushes people to acquire wealth without work. Lastly, our orientation should help improve our mindset to the fact that voluntary and selfless service helps write our name in gold in the sand of time. That even when we die, our name will be so engraved in the heart of the world that time will never erase it. Well, I don't want to talk too much. Make I pause and here to enable you make your own contribution in all our social media platforms shown on your screen. Also help us to share the message so that we can collectively change our society. For no matter how expensive education is, without commensurate effort to promote and create job opportunities, you will still end up as poor. No be me talker. Remember, the luxuries of today are the necessities of tomorrow. See you next week.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, beautiful people. You are welcome once again to your favorite program, our favorite program, The Conversation, coming to you from TV360 here in Lagos, Nigeria. My name is Nelson Ekujimi, and I have here with me in the studio today, Peter Clever Opara. Peter, you are welcome to the program.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, The Conversation, like we all know, is a topical issues program that looks at happenings in Nigeria and in the diaspora. Top of the bill today, we want to look at 32 years since the annulment of the June 12, 1993 presidential election, as well as the commemoration of that day as Nigeria's Democracy Day, as well as the 26 years of unbroken civilian democratic rule. The June 12, 1993 presidential election, for the information of those viewers of ours who were not around or who have not been able to read that history, I was an active participant. I can write a book on that epoch event. Same with Peter Opara here. You recollect that former military dictator Babangida, when he took over office in 1985, he toppled the government of General Muhammadu Buhari, and he promised that he was going to relinquish power come 1990. 1990 came, military dictator Babangida shifted it to 1991. 1991 came, he shifted it to 1992. 1992, he shifted it again to 1993. And like some persons have come out to describe him, he was playing games with the lives of Nigerian people. I was a footballer, and that's the good thing, Peter. It was when I realized that Babangida was going to push Nigeria into a civil war. because I know you can only exercise your talent in an atmosphere of peace, you know, and civility.
Yeah.
But when everybody is running for his or her life, there will be no. In fact, if you are lucky to be alive. So we had that election on June 12, and against the expectation of military dictator Babangida, who called himself a military president, he was looking for a way to transmove for a military general, a military head of state, to a civilian president. So in order to clear the order halfway, he changed to, instead of being called military head of state, he said, he changed the acronym to military president. Yeah. So what remained now was just to remove the military and put civilian. But we had that election, and the Nigerians spoke. Another election on June 23 via an unwritten paper from the office of Nduka Iraboden, the spokesperson of Vice Admiral Augustus Ayomu. And since then, immediately then, all hell broke loose. And Nigerians insisted that they were not going to allow recognize any other administration other than that of President MK Abiola, who won that election. Even though Onfriwosu was dilly-dallying, he didn't want to announce the results, because 48 hours after the election, then we had 30-state structure. Almost every Nigerian had the results. We already knew who had won. But, you know, under law, it is only the electoral body that can pronounce results and declare winner. So Onfriwosu was playing games with Babangida. He was holding on to the result. So at a point in time, and that was what gave them the window, about a week plus before the election was annulled. And just this year, Babangida wrote a book where, like, you know, we dissected that book on this program, The Conversation, and we made it known to anybody who cared to listen that book was a tissue of lies. He accepted responsibility for the annulment, but pushed the fault for that decision to his then number 3 man, late General Sani Abacha. I can tell you for free, when I remember that election, I remember it with nostalgia. Nostalgia in the sense that Nigerians went to the poll with the high optimism of voting for a candidate that will better their life. Because the mantra of Chief M.K. Abiola was farewell to poverty. And Abiola was a Muslim. He had a Muslim running mate, Babagana Kingibe. While the NRC had a Muslim presidential candidate, Bashir Tofa, and a vice presidential candidate of Dr. Sylvester Ogo, who was a Christian. But Nigerians said they were going to vote for a Muslim. Majority of Nigerians. And we voted on that day. Babangida annulled it. And ever since then, Babangida has known no peace.
Thank you. The whole thing is that, let me even start from the Onfriwosu angle. Onfriwosu was not acting on his own free will. Onfriwosu was doing on all sides with consistent pressure. Even in organizing the election, he rode past the pressures not to hold the election, to holding it, and coming up to the point of announcing the results. And we also heard, of how he was placed under house arrest at the time at that decision. I think he did, and I think that's why President Bola Tinubu insisted and honored him as he did in the last roll of honor. But like you have said.
But Peter, just a minute. You remember when that election was supposed to hold on a Thursday, about 2 days to the election?
Yeah.
The Association of Better Nigeria that was secretly funded by Babangida to scuttle the electoral process.
Yes.
Got a court order.
Yeah.
But the same Onfriwosu came out and said, under the decree governing the electoral system, that the decree had ousted the jurisdiction of the court. So if you can defy that order, and also you remember that the American government issued a statement that they will no longer tolerate the postponement of
the election, the June 12th election.
The transition program, because according to records, IBB organized the most expensive the most hazardous
and the longest,
most traumatic
transition,
the most torturous transition program, all to succeed himself.
Let me come in, because we are talking about the issue of Humphrey Nwosu.
Yes.
There was no court order to this thing. This was just a government that placed you under the gun, that you should not proceed further. With Humphrey Nwosu have said, okay, I'm announcing the result, let them kill me. No. What we are saying is this. The bottom line is that the government didn't want the election to hold.
Yes.
They didn't want the transition to complete. That was the Babangida government. Babangida wanted to stay put by all means necessary.
Yes.
And June 12th was like, you see, it got to a point that he saw it now escaping him, and what he now did is to brutally come down and annul the election, stop the announcement and annul the election. But that is, by the way, what I have said, I was a direct participant in the struggle for the validation of June 12th election from the beginning to the end. I think the day Chivenko Abiola died, we were in the UAD, I can say underground operational room. DSS, military, everybody was looking for that, but they never knew. We were at that point when we had the first noise. We sent somebody. The person now came and told us that Abiola had died. So I was in the struggle at the student level. I was the speaker of the Unilag, and definitely Unilag was the corpus of the struggle of that decision. And even then, on campus, before the executive, before the student body moves, the house has to give it their vetting. That was what happened. In the campus then, there were a division of students. Mostly some others who are not Yorubas now try to make it a Yoruba affair. But all in all, majority of Nigerians, we are against it. I remember the day we passed the resolution that on June 12th we stand. There was a very frantic effort not to pass that motion. And whatever it is. But because the majority will have their way, we pass it. And that now marked our involvement in the struggle up to the last. Even when we left school, we now continued up to, I can say, even the struggle is still ongoing. So June 12th was a watershed. And possibly would have changed a lot of things. But from the start, Babangida didn't want to relinquish power.
Yes, that was very clear to everybody.
Babangida and the cartel around him, which included the late Abacha,
yes,
they were bent on holding on to power. Because of the persistent pressure they felt, they were able to run the transition period up to the point where Nigerians held what they considered the freest and fairest election. Had a clear choice of who to lead them. And then they stepped in. Annulled it and used everything at their disposal to divide Nigerians as a way of forcing that annulment.
Even Peter, you remember that immediately Chifemke Abiola emerged as the winner, as the presidential candidate of the SDP, and he picked Bagaba Ghana Kingibe as because Atiku Abubakar was being funded by IBB to emerge. But because I think Abiola looked at the political strength of Baba Ghana Kingibe, he now picked Kingibe because Kingibe was a Muslim and Abiola was a Muslim. The government now started sponsoring this divisive information that how can we have a Muslim president and vice president. But when we went to the polls, Nigerians told the then government in clear terms through their votes that we don't care the religion you practice. It's none of our business.
One of the things that led to June 12th election, that election itself, and led to Nigerians is that Nigerians were resolved. Nigerians were simply tired of the Babangida government. And they wanted it to go.
Go.
With all the obstacles, as many obstacles as the Nigerians were determined to jump over those obstacles and
also, I think we must tell our viewers, and also that he was responsible for the resilience. Even in the face of armored tanks, guns, boots, bullets. Nigerians said on June 12th we stand. And that was why on August 27, when Babangida was supposed to have exited office, he ran away on the 26th. and he handed over power to a lackey,
a lame dog,
a lame dog that was unknown to our
knowing that Abacha was locking,
and they now put Abacha behind.
Yes.
And they made a decree that immediately there's any problem with the head of state, the minister of defense will step in. Who was Abacha?
Yes. So no, you see, all those things, like we said, we are Babangida strap. You know, it was like when you say he wrote a book. What is he going to tell us in the book? That what happened? And at the end of the day, you now see his evasive self. You know, in the book, he couldn't get himself to fully acknowledge what he did, and possibly offer a national apology, because he's not going to wake Chivenko Abiola.
Is it Chivenko? Do you know? Are you talking about the thousands of people? Have you forgotten those who lost their lives on the Ikorodu road?
I know.
People were when they even at a point in time they told us that Chivenko Abiola was bringing worship to come and launch war on them.
There is nothing we didn't hear.
And some people fell for that propaganda by Uchechukwu Meriji.
Yes.
And when they were traveling, we saw families perish on the road in accidents.
Of course. So, you see, the lessons of June 12 is that Nigerians have to be, how will I put it? Nigerians have to be alert to say never again will we have such a scenario. We are one man with his cartel, because he was definitely doing everything with a tiny cartel that made sure that June 12's annulment was sustained.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, that Chivenko Abiola was taken out of the way. So we must make sure that such thing, because that thing set Nigeria, that June 12th annulment set Nigeria several decades back. We are like doing catch up after that, because they kind of how will I put it? The kind of disconnections that act brought to the Nigerian nation was enormous. So let us have at the back of our mind that never again will we give space for such a scenario to reoccur again. I think that is what Nigerians have to be working at, even no matter how cozy we are with the democracy we have at present. Nigerians have to be at alert always, you know. Well, so if you want democracy, you have to be at alert, so that never again with the kind of people that machinated the annulment of the June 12th election, never again will they come and happen to this country. Because I wonder if Nigeria will survive it. It was by the grace of God that we even survived the aftermath of June 12th.
But Peter, I think, like you have rightly said, one clear message that stood out was that even with the annulments, with the threats, with the killing, with the bombing, with the
eliminations,
with the indefinite clampdown on every dissenting voice, Nigerians stood their ground.
Oh yes,
and that was why we were able to see the end of Babangida in office as military president.
Yes,
and also the end of late General Sani Abacha. As well as the horrid exit of General Abdulsalam Abubakar. You remember that when that election was annulled and Nigerians every day were holding protests across the country, they tried to ethnicize it. It failed. At a point in time, even the succeeding civilian administration of General Olusegun Obasanjo, when he came into office, he was even telling us that any mention of June 12th will amount to treason. This was the same Obasanjo
that was the biggest beneficiary of the annulment. It was Obasanjo that benefited most from the annulment of June 12, because what happened after the death of Chivenko Abiola was that the military, the departing military, want to hurry up, but they must find a way to compensate the Southwest for what they did on June 12. So what they now did was to go to prison and exhume an Obasanjo that was almost a derelict. Empower him and make him president. Even the subsequent elections of election that produced Obasanjo was not a free and fair process. But people felt that, okay, let us allow it to roll and let us start rebuilding. You know, Obasanjo benefited, yet he was one of the greatest enemy of June 12. Let me tell you, on July 3rd, 1993, that was the day the biggest military protest took place, because it was the official launch of the fight against June 12. So we were at
the annulment.
Yes. We were at Chivenko Abiola's house off Allen. Yes, student leaders, me, Shore, and one other thing. We met Abiola one-on-one. You know, Obasanjo was there. He drove himself in a Volvo 760, blue Volvo 760 GL. He was there. You know, and you know those people, they always know how to sew on both sides. He was there, maybe because we take it that whoever braved what happened that day to come there was in solidarity with
the people.
Some weeks later, we now heard Obasanjo telling us that Abiola was not the Messiah we needed. He started positioning himself as the Messiah needed. Yeah. And maybe the positioning and the scheming and the intrigues was what got him into prison with Abacha.
With Abacha, yes.
Trouble with Abacha that he was in prison.
Yes.
From that prison, the military has to go and exile him, empower him, and bring him up as the president.
And Peter, even as at that, you remember that the letter Chief Abiola wrote to late Ganifa, late Chief Abiola, when there was this rumor that Chief Abiola had decided to relinquish the mandate.
Yes.
And Chief Abiola said, while in detention, that Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, with a retinue of 26 traditional rulers, came to him, begging him that the trouble we have made over June 12th.
Those are the kind of intrigues he is known for.
But that he told him off in unspeakable terms.
Yes, that's the kind of intrigues he was known for. You know, and then when he now landed the president, he pretended as if June 12th never happened.
Is that
he did
everything to concern June 12th to history.
But you have to see the way God works. It took an extreme northerner to come in,
a military man,
apologize to Nigerians over the Abiola family and Nigerians over June 12th, or recognize Chief Abiola, giving the highest honor, giving a post as the winner of the election, and declare June 12th a public holiday.
As well as Democracy Day.
As well as Democracy
Day.
So
we cannot but commend the former President Muhammadu Buhari.
Yes.
He has written his name in gold. By that historic act. This was a declaration that Obasanjo wanted to confine into history. Yar'Adua was too sick. Even Jonathan,
all of them
ran away from it. Good luck, Jonathan, that was from the south.
None of them had the
I think we must commend.
None of them had the courage to recognize Chief Abiola and give him the necessary. None of them had it. Until a northerner, for that matter, a military man, had to come and offer a national apology over
Peter, you know, when Obasanjo came in, knowing the antecedents of former President Obasanjo, to be honest, I never expected him to honor June 12th. If you know the history, if you know the history of General Obasanjo, he's a man that has only one friend. And that friend of his is Obasanjo.
His four friends, Matthew, Aremu, Okikiola, Obasanjo.
Those are his friends.
Those are his friends.
So, but I expected Yar'Adua or Jonathan to have done it. And the way, in fact, the most disappointing person to me was Goodluck Jonathan. They were behaving as if the heavens will fall.
That one say he have renamed the University of Lagos after MK.
He wanted to turn into an ethnic issue, and that was why we resisted it. That you can only, if you want to name university in Abuja, don't turn the June 12 mandate into a Yoruba affair. No, it was a national mandate. And that was why he didn't see the light of the day. So, like we have said, the story about June 12 will be written till a lot of us go to our graves. There are so many Nigerians that played prominent roles in the struggle, so many unsung heroes. You talk about a Walter Carrington, the late former American ambassador to Nigeria. He was in the even against diplomatic obligation. Nigerian government went and disrupted a meeting in which the ambassador of America with some Nigerians were participating in Sulere. They shot into the air and they dispersed them with tear gas. So at the last 2023 election, when the Labour Party lost the election and some persons went on demonstration that I say, if they know what we went through under even if you are sleeping and you dream military rule, you wake up that God, I don't want to see this type of dream.
You see,
under military rule, as we are in the studio, soldiers will barge in and pick us.
Yeah.
You dare not have a dissenting voice.
You see, those ones are operating from the prism of frustration. And when you are frustrated and desperate, you can do a lot of things. Some of them may have known definitely that it would not be Tea Party with a military government. But in the heat of frustration, in the heat of ensuring that whoever their vanquisher does not get that position, they can go on and make extreme recommendations, but they will always lose, at the end of the day, because Nigerians are wiser. Nigerians know, actually, even the military themselves know that, military rule is not the best for Nigeria. And if
it has become an aberration anywhere in the world.
It's an intolerable aberration everywhere in the world. You see, that is why you now see them building up stories, building up
flies
about some of the
military
talks
that
are ruining the Sahel region.
Yes,
and
these are countries that jihadists have taken over almost two-thirds of the country.
In Burkina Faso, the jihadists or whatever control 60% of the country. Burkina Faso is one of the poorest countries in Africa.
Look at the one in Niger.
Yes.
He transmuted himself. No, he took over power.
Yeah.
When he was told that military rule is not allowed, he now formed a transition committee. And he has now been appointed as a transitional head for the next 5 years.
Of course.
When military come in, is to come and loot, rape.
You expect that. And they
are fraudsters.
You expect that. That's what they do. This is the kind of thing like you say, some people that lost election. Some people that have what some people call zanga people in the north, who feel that power should be with them. They are the people that are calling Russia flag. Take over the country and remove the
democratic government.
You see, those desperations are what accounts for the underdevelopment you see in Nigeria. Because if Nigerians had been allowed to manage their inequities all this while, they would have gotten it right as this. But since the military now came into the body politic, and like this June 12 issue we are talking about, with the kind of atrocious acts like that, you find out that the stability of Nigeria was delayed over and over again. Nigeria can never in any way go back to the military. That is, Nigeria is long past that, and the earlier these people agree or believe that, it's not, militarism is a no-no for Nigeria, the better for them. I think, like I do say, and that is part of my counsel, that Nigerians should be at alert, so that we don't go back to the kind of situation that brought about the annulment of June 12, because that act itself set us decades back. That's
well, thank you very much, Peter, for your submission so far. Like we said earlier on, we can continue to talk about June 12 till the kingdom come. It was one event in the political life of Nigeria that shaped, because without June 12, who knows, maybe the military would still have been here.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
Yes, because, the plan between the military boys was to be handing over from one general to the other. But June 12 truncated that, and we've had 26 years of uninterrupted democratic system.
From that,
And we cannot but continue to keep faith with democracy, because democracy enhances human dignity. We can choose our leaders periodically every 4 years. And if there's a leader we are dissatisfied with, there are constitutional procedures for removing such leaders under our laws.
That is like building faith in democracy.
Yes.
Nigerians have no option than to build faith
we don't
in
have
democracy.
An option, yes.
Like America has done, like France has done, like Britain has done, like Germany, like every other advanced nation on earth.
Yes.
We cannot advance as a country while being under military rule. That is just the...
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is where we want to call it a wrap on the conversation today. We've had a very great time discussing June 12, Democracy Day. We cannot but, commend and commend President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for the honor done to some of our heroes. There are still so many people out there to be recognized. Most especially Alaja Abibat Mogaji. She played, an amazing role as the leader of the market women and men in Nigeria. We are very much aware. We are very much in the picture that it was through her we made a lot of contacts with markets all over the country, and we achieved the result of aggravating or escalating the June 12 struggle to the understanding of the peasants, because the June 12 was not about the elites, it was about the poor man, it was about our life.
And of course, the students that led the street fight.
The students,
because without the street fight,
absolutely.
June 12 would not have been in press releases.
We cannot, if we want to continue writing names, there are some names we don't even have.
Sure.
But we'll write it from now.
There are some that we are killed while protesting against June 12.
Some were even killed. Why not protesting? Why just watching?
Yes.
So, we lost men, women, we lost resources. Yeah. The damage done to our psyche by the annulment by General Badamasi Babangida is incalculable.
Yeah.
And the trauma.
Nigeria was drifting on the precipice of war.
Yes, and the trauma is still with us.
Mass migration from one place to the other, expecting war at any point in time. And of course, the military was instigating all this.
The crisis.
As a way to stay put in power.
Yes. Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is where we want to call it a wrap on the conversation today. Till we come away again next time, please continue to watch the conversation coming to you from TV360 here in Lagos, Nigeria. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
risque de planter des arbres. Ça me plaît beaucoup. Ici, c'était un dépotoir d'ordures ménagères. Du fait que les villageois ne savaient pas qu'est-ce que c'est que l'importance de la forêt, ils prenaient leurs ordures et les déposaient. En ce moment, je leur ai sensibilisé de leur dire que l'arbre doit vivre comme nous, donc il ne faut pas salir l'arbre. C'est ce que nous a donné l'impact positif pour avoir ici un périmètre pour cultiver. Le 2 mai 2005, on a allé voir les eaux et forêts qui nous ont attribué 500 mètres carrés qu'on a initié, intégrer les femmes dans un AGR. Et avec ça, on a choisi le maraîchage. On était à 3 hectares, mais on ne cultive pas sous la haute tension et on nous a déguerpi et on est à 2 hectares.
Si on fait travailler ces femmes dans cette forêt, c'est pour qu'elles prennent également soin de cette forêt. Non seulement ça permet de fertiliser les sols, mais ça permet également de les autonomiser économiquement à travers la vente de fruits.
Tous les arbres fruitiers que vous voyez, c'est nous qui l'avons planté. Chaque citronnier, on y récoltait plus de 60 kilos.
Merci beaucoup. Que ce sont des dames très dynamiques, des dames très braves, qui subissent de plein fouet les effets des changements climatiques. Nous, on vient en rescousse pour informer, pour sensibiliser sur des solutions, la promotion de bonnes pratiques. Pour les cas pires, c'est également l'apparition de nouveaux parasites. Et ça, on le vit ici au quotidien et un peu partout au Sénégal. Ça participe également à la dégradation des sols. Justement, c'est la raison pour laquelle nous, on essaye de trouver comme solution prioritaire aujourd'hui le reboisement massif dans les périmètres maraîchers avec des espèces qui sont répulseurs aussi.
Nos projets d'avenir, si les femmes l'acceptent, on veut faire un projet de pépinière dans les alvéoles pour alléger les travaux.
La femme est à l'image de la terre. Ce sont des vrais écoféministes qui sont là, qui sont engagés pour la protection et la préservation de l'environnement.
La forêt, c'est nous et nous, c'est la forêt.
da kamar ina da tare da waya ta ma za ku ga hamada saboda ni na dauka waya kuma yi ne kamar yanzu kamar ana mutai yana cikin bidiyo na gargajiya ko ka tona hamada ko gurin kiwon ma babu gonakan ka babu ma maganar gonakai duk inda muke da gonakai gurin sahara ya ce gurin kiwo sahara ya ce kuma taku da kanka ma kana tafiya wallahi kana sai ka yi kana tafiya wani gangare in ka diga ko ka dan ka sai ya tafi da kana tona ma ba za ka kama shi karuwa yake ma karuwa ba an ce akwai ma'aikatan ma
Farmers and herders in Nigeria used to enjoy relative peace as they interacted with each other. That is no longer the case. It is estimated that between 2016 and 2018, over 3,600 lives were lost to the crisis between the two groups. In the first half of 2018, about 300,000 people became displaced for the same reason. Northwestern and North Central Nigeria have notably been the heart of this violence. But the crisis is spreading fast to other parts of the country, including the South. Several factors have been identified for the wave of bloodshed. Rapidly increasing population figures, rapidly dwindling resources, which both groups rely on. Also, the pattern of migration of the traditionally nomadic Fulani cattle rearers has been changing. This is due to rising insecurity, improvements in veterinary medicine, hostility from locals and state governments, and a bunch of environmental factors including climate change, desertification, loss of vegetation, and water scarcity. In Yobe, northeast Nigeria, the relationship between the scarcity of natural resources and increased violence is obvious. From the encroachment of the Sahara Desert to the shrinking of the Hadija Nguru wetlands.
ina magana akan yanayin mutuwar dabbobinmu lokacin yunwa. Misali, idan rani ya ja lokaci kafin faduwar damuna, duk da faduwar damuna, ciyawa ta kan yanke.
Wato matsalar da muke samu na takwararwa hamada. Mu dai faru lokacin gama in particular daga Fulani gabar da nan kenan da muke zo har zuwa Gumsi ita ce su lokacin gama. Kuma jajin bayan da dai abubuwan da kuke gani a nan yanzu a ƙasa ta kusa kan tare hamada ta riga ta cika cikin lokacin gama. Ta yi nisa ta ci sosai. Ba mu san dai kuma abin da zai biyo baya ba amma ɓangaren gwamnati
the challenge of climate change and the consequences of climate change on the environment, especially when you look closely at environmental degradation and the competition for resources, in this instance specifically for land and water, has in several instances generated conflict. There is virtually no part of the northwest, not to an extent north central, and then northeast that you go to that you don't see receding water bodies, and how this is having a huge impact on the socio-economic well-being of and livelihoods of the people in those communities. And so the likelihood of migration from the core northern states into some parts of southern Nigeria is something that is real.
Zakari, a village in Yusufari, northern Yobe State, lies on the fringes of the Sahara Desert. About 50 years ago, it was like any other arid northeast Nigerian community, with decent vegetation, a smooth road network, sun-baked mud buildings, and a great many people who had lived there for generations. Now it is just miles and miles of sand dunes. Desert encroachment has pushed out the majority of the residents, many of them herders. Malam Musa is one of many herders in Gaidam who have now resettled in the Song area of Adamawa.
Sani wanda ya yi sanadiyan barin su yankin nan? Akwai. Na je kai kaman gidaje na ko rugaje na ko mutane nawa za ka gaba kayyana?
Kai kamar 100.
Okay, wanda suka bar nan wajen.
Ake kaɗan ɗin.
A sanadiyan wannan. To ya kuke fama da baki?
Around January, February, you hardly see anything in the place that an animal will browse or take as a food. And there's no water even to drink. So this is one of the factors that will make them to come southwards. They move southwards for water and for grazing the dry grasses. Definitely the desert encroachment is one of the factors that is concentrating the animal into a place and making the clashes between farmers and herders more frequent, more often. Had it been that in the area that is encroached by desert, there is grasses and water for them to use, they may not be there. They don't have to move. They don't have to move. But now it's necessary that they must come southward as the dry season is approaching. They must come southward in search of little pasture and drinking water. While if during the rainy season approach, they go north, since there may be water and little grasses for them to graze.
The problem with desert encroachment is not going to stop anytime soon. According to one estimate, the sand dunes shift towards the south at a rate of 30 hectares each year, putting 11 states in northern Nigeria at risk of desertification. More cattle rearers in these places are moving elsewhere due to the combination of factors: insecurity, drought, desertification, and the need for water.
ruwan ba irin na ba saboda ruwan kowa ya ji fadama bai sha ruwa ba gashi kuma ga gurare gonaki ko ina fili ya kare ba gurin yau to shi ne makayayan da suka zo ga lamirinmu anan mun yi da mu da su akan mu kore su muka yi mu kore su abun ya gagare mu muka gaya wa lawanin mu shi ma ya yi dan abun da bakin kokarin sa abun ya gagari mun gaya wa hakimi ma duk kowa ya san da ba kuma ba din nan ba daga wani guri suke ba daga jiga.
The migration of herders to new places tends to lead to clashes or aggravate existing conflicts because of competition over insufficient land and water resources.
Ina tafiya suna tare ni da kibiya suna jifa na ni ina so in tafi gurin yaran can su kuma suna gefen nan gefen kudu haka su yaran suna gabar ni ina tafiya gun su gabar su kuma suna gefe na
yaran da suke aikin
shinkafa
kai kana so ka iso wajen su
su kuma wannan
shan makiyaye kuma sai suka zargu
a cikin gona
sai suka zargu suka fara harbi
sai suka kama harbi suna harbi na suna jifa ni ban sani ba ma ni da na gani haka dai ina gani suna yin haka dai da abin su suna jifa amma kibiyan bai zo ya same ni ba ban gani ba ma ashe wai su harbi suke sai na fasa tafiya gun yaran sai na tafi gun yaran fulani din to ina tafiya ɗayan yana yin harbinsa ashe kibiyarsa ya ƙare da ya gani na kusa zuwa gunsa sai dan uwansa sai ya jefa masa addansa shi wani yana da kibiya shi zai gudu kenan sai ya jefa wannan da ba zai gudu ba sai ya jefa masa adda kawai yaron nan kawai sai ya tafi da gudu sai ya fita da gudu ya zo ya same ni ya doka mu
adda?
da itace a hannuna na ɗauka na masu buge shinkafa ya yanke itacen kuma ya yanke hannu hannun yanzu haka babu yanzu fakin ne aka ce za a yi ba zai zama hannu ba
shi ne wannan kibiya ɗan kibiyan kenan?
shi lokacin da ya tsare da adda na faɗi
kamar shekara 5 a bangaren noma din gaskiya ba mu da matsala da su amma daga shekara 2 zuwa 3 din abubuwan suka ƙara lalacewa
kuma karanci ruwa shi ya kawo inda ruwan ya zo an zuba da shinkafa wani guri ya hau wani guri bai hau ba to dalilin wannan su ne dama wanda fulani suka samu rashin ruwan shi ya kawo su suka shiga ka zauna kuma abinda sauran shinkawan masu ma rashin kiyawa da miyadin suka shiga shinkawa mutane suna ci an hana
so abun muhimmi da ya fi karfi mu gaskiya mu na maguru.
In Nguru, about 100 kilometers west of Yusufari, is a section of the Hadija Nguru wetlands. For many years, the waterlogged fields and rivers in the area have sustained the livelihoods of millions of farmers, herders, and fishermen. But the water is starting to recede. Harvests, especially for rice farmers, have dropped significantly in the past year. They are also facing more problems from herders whose cattle graze on for harvest.
To gaskiya wannan dai inda dai da ruwan dai hakan duk ba za ta faru da yawa ba. Da rashin ruwan ma kuma da ta'adin da fulani ne duk dai ba wanda za a ce ba.
Kowa ya taka rawa ciki.
Gaskiya ne.
Yanzu a ganin ka me kake gani ya kamata a yi wanda zai iya magance wannan abun? Ita buɗewar ne ko kuma
an da an buɗe ruwa din za a iya samun saukin kan abin hanyar ruwa idan ta riga ta gyaru zaman lafiya tsakanin tun da datin ruwa yana zama ba wani matsala tsakanin su da can asali din da ruwa yana zaune muna zaune da ruwa daga baya kuma ruwan ya yi karanci zuwa yanzu shekara kamar 12 da akwai ruwa baya amma zuwa
sosai ba sa ɗaukan sa kamar wani muhimmanci.
Gona biyu haka aka ce gona biyu aka ce kowanne a baya ina samun 30 gona biyu ina samun 60 babu ɗaya kwano ɗaya ban samu kuma na yi yunkuri na ji na gaya ciyama.
To our own understanding, the major problems is the absence of coming of the water. That are the reason why we fail to get what we have.
Lack of water.
They are all affected in the land. We have only source of water. If that source bring us water, the whole area farming well and organized. And then if there is no water from that only center we have it, we all lost. And what we understand now, the farmers at Onguru, they have already failed. 70% of our farmers have nothing to farm. 90%. Have 20% get only rice that have been eaten in their house. And then 10% are those that are gain something from the farming. And even me, I've tried to farm more than 1,000 to 2,000 rice. And my chairman more than 20,000. And the secretary will do more than 25,000 because of he's richer than us. But now, even I don't have even 10 bucks. I'm farming more than 1,000 and I don't have even 10 bucks.
Ok, kana ga da ka dauka
babu sun cinye ne yayi mu ruwa bai shiga ba.
Some footprints of the cows or plants that they've eaten.
Akwai da zamu iya ganin zamu iya daukan hoton
da ta mutu a cikin su.
Ba tsarin mu na mu kare na ba sai mu ya ga gaba da wannan.
The major problem is lack of water. And then the second problem is the coming of the Fulani from somewhere else. And then that Fulani come because of the absence of water.
Three factors have been identified for the water problem: the proliferation of the invasive taifa grass, the construction of dams along water roads supplying the wetlands, such as the Tiga Dam in Kano, and droughts. One other reason for the increased clashes between farmers and herders in Nigeria is the encroachment of grazing roads, reserved for use by pastoralists, by northern lawmakers during the First Republic. These grazing roads and reserves are now being converted into farmlands and other structures. This makes it difficult for herders to move about freely without trespassing and has repeatedly been used as an excuse.
Burtali nan da abin da ya kama daga nan har zuwa Sudan akwai burtali, amma su wayansu manoma duk sun je sun tattare sun je sun yi shuki da sauransu. Shi yasa su Fulani kai musu magana da wannan suke laɓewa. An kashe burtali da sauransu. Amma hakikanin gaskiya yawancin tashin hankali da muke samu a nan akan harkar manoma da makiyaya yawanci duka ba makiya namu na nan bane, daga wani guri ne suke zuwa. Suka zo kuma ba ka tsoron ɓannatar da kayan mutane kuma ba ka tsoron faɗa.
Even though the Nigerian government has kick-started attempts to revisit the grazing roads, experts say this is not the long-lasting solution that is needed.
The era of open grazing, in my honest opinion, it's over. Yes, as a temporary measure and to allow for a de-escalation of the current situation that we're in, there may be a need to allow some form of movement, but that movement should be generated towards encouraging ranching and encouraging some more other sophisticated type of livestock rearing.
Unless when this is modernized, this problem of movement from one place to the other, or maybe to get sufficient either meat or milk that cater for the country is being modernized, I don't think we can achieve this our target. One of the problems, as I told you earlier, is that those people that are handling the animals refuse to go to school. They must be educated before they have that thinking that you are saying. Those people that are illiterate, they are all what they knew nothing about apart from the cattle. If you want them to improve what they are doing, how are you going to incorporate that knowledge into their own thinking? It's very difficult. And another problem to my own seeing is that government also is not paying much attention to the cattle rearers. You can hear programs, fertilizer, and what again? Seed. Most of the government programs are targeted towards crop cultivation. You can hardly come across any program that is targeted towards the cattle rearers. You can even hear about the states that are banning open grazing.
Mu masu karamin karfi ne, abinda muke da shi ga daren mun tattara mun je mun zubar a jeji, domin wannan in ya fito a shi da mu samu abin da mu ci mu taimaka yan uwa. Mu marayu ne to amma babu, an riga an cinye yanzu haka nan haka sidda yanzu haka nan da 500 na je samu a cikin kwari.
It's been 42 years now since St. Ambrose's Catholic Secondary School was established by the Catholic Church before it was taken over by the government. Several students have passed through the four walls of the school, just as several administrative staff have come and gone. But the one thing that has remained largely unchanged is the infrastructure and teaching facilities in the school. Year by year, things got worse. Classroom buildings began giving way. The classrooms themselves became inconducive for both teaching and learning. Things were literally in an abject state.
We have been managing teaching even when the rain is falling, the rain will be falling inside the classroom. We cannot abandon teaching. At times we mass students together when there is no conducive classroom. During the tenure of the past principal, Mr. Ogunbadejo Fola. So when he came to the school, he discovered that things will not be going on like this. So many classrooms are leaking, some roofs have even off, some buildings are collapsed. The parents are not able to do anything concerning it. So we be folding and then every year, the roofing have been taking away a lot of money. So he now decided to go spiritual by calling upon God. So every Thursday of every month, we used to gather together, spending 30 minutes, calling upon God. So we look for the name of some old student. We got the name from one of the old students called KK. We wrote their name on the pieces of paper. During the prayer time, we raised the name up. God to compel them to come.
Either by divine intervention or mere coincidence, something happened.
Many thanks for joining us on the newsroom. I'm Okbayemi Owoshemi, and these are the stories we're tracking at the moment. Armed policemen have taken over Wadata Plaza, the headquarters of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, in Abuja, as tension continues to mount over the party's National Executive Committee meeting, which is expected to hold on Monday. Though some staff members of the party were initially allowed to go into the premises of the Secretariat without any resistance from the police, they were later sent out. Journalists who have also been asked to leave the premises of the Secretariat. Some staff of the Federal Capital Territory Administration, FCTA, are currently staging a protest in front of the FCTA headquarters in Area 11, Abuja. The group, under the aegis of Joint Union Action Committee, were seen holding placards with inscriptions such as non-payment of AEPB enforcement squad, inaccessibility of the salary portal to salary desk officers, without salaries and allowances of workers for over 6 months, amongst others. Now, speaking to journalists, the president of the union, Rifatu Lotia, explained that they have taken several actions such as writing letters since 2023 to the FCT minister Nyesom Wike to intervene, but all efforts so far has proved abortive. And the Nigerian government has arraigned the senator representing Kogi Central, Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, at the Federal High Court in Abuja. The Nigerian government arraigned the female lawmaker on Monday on 6 counts, verging on alleged cybercrime against the Senate President Godswill Akpabio and former governor of Kogi State, Yahaya Bello. The People's Democratic Party senator pleaded not guilty, and Justice Mohammed Umar granted her bail on self-recognition. The Nigerian Education Loan Fund, NEL Fund, has warned students to be cautious of a fake portal with fraudulent messages currently circulating online. This is contained in a statement in Abuja on Monday by the Fund's Director of Strategic Communications, Oseyemi Oluwatui. She urged the general public, especially students, parents and guardians, to avoid clicking on unverified links and to never submit personal or financial information on suspicious websites. And on business, the Nigerian-Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry has projected that the volume of trade between Nigeria and Indonesia would rise to at least $5 billion by the time the 2024 official figures are released, according to the president of the NICCI, Ismail Balogun, who disclosed this at a press briefing in Lagos. Trade volume in 2019 was at $1.9 billion between both countries, rising to $2.0 billion in 2022-20 and taking over then from South Africa as Indonesia's African largest trading partner. And on the foreign scene, Canada has reinstated its digital services tax in a bid to advance trade negotiations with the United States. Now, this comes days after United States President Donald Trump called up talks in retaliation for the levy. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, in a statement, disclosed that he and Trump have now agreed to resume trade negotiations amidst the war. And finally, on sports, John Obi Mikel, a former Chelsea midfielder, has urged the Blues to sign Boniface and Tolitro this summer transfer window. Obi Mikel insisted that Enzo Maresca's side currently need Tobin ahead of the upcoming new season. He disclosed this following Chelsea's recent 4-1 win against Benfica in the Club World last 16 encounter. And those are the stories making the round from our newsroom at this time. We'll update you at the top of the hour.
Opinions are free, facts are sacred, but truth is universal.
How, in practical terms, can we, for instance, de-escalate the tension?
When you go into public office, you must be ready to answer to the people.
We know where the enemy is. 3 places. The Lake Chad Basin, the border area between Nigeria and Cameroon, and then the Sambisa Forest.
On TV360, we give you a complete dose of everything. Opinion, facts and undiluted truth.
I hardly believe what politicians say in this part of the world. A new Nigeria is possible, a future is possible.
We delve into the issues, dissect it, so that you can understand.
My name is Bintu Salu Garba, IGB. From secondary school, I moved on to Kano Polytechnic. That's where I started painting. And I'm happy I was the first female to start painting the Kano State. When I was a child, I used to draw. By then, I didn't know what painting was. I guess you understand what I mean. Then my uncle, then late, he now took us to London. That's where I saw paintings of master's paintings, very beautiful ones at the National Gallery of Art in England. So from there on, I just love painting and I pick up interest from there. But I noticed after every painting, a painter will now inscribe his name at the bottom of the painting. That was what inspired me. I said, oh, I would love to paint and then inscribe my name on that. From there on, I just pick up drawing, and then I continue drawing from there. That's it is to painting. Honestly, if you say dominated by men, possibly it is only here in Kano that painting is dominated by men. Other places, painting, women do painting. If you say challenges, well, there are quite a lot of challenges, but I was able to go through it because the men I'm working with then, they were also helping me to see that as a female, they kept encouraging me, even the lecturers, they encouraged me to paint. So I now pick up painting and I continue doing it, and I truly, really worked hard to get to where I am today. I started teaching drawing. I got employed into Kano State Senior Service Management Board, that is secondary school. So I continue drawing, painting, and then teaching at the same time, and then making money from there because it's a job. It is what I do. You understand? It's what I do. I teach painting, I paint. People tend to commission me for some paintings. Some of them I even say flowers, some fruits, some vegetables, etc. I just continue doing it, and that's how I tend to make it as a business. As I've earlier mentioned, I told you I've been teaching for past decade now. You understand? So I guess I am passing this knowledge down. Now that I've come to this age, I'm in my studio, I allow teenagers to come. I teach them painting free of charge. Some of them, all they do is to buy the materials themselves. And then I do teach them, I do coach them, because you don't teach painting, you coach. It is some talent, like person has talent and then you now coach him, you develop his skill, you understand? So that is what I do now. I get teenagers and even adults, some of them are even interested. They do come to my studio and ask me, "Pa, I would like to paint." I would like, fine and good, since it is what I've been doing for over 30 years now. So I now find it easier to even teach anyone that is even interested in painting. For over 30 years. I cannot tell precisely how many. Like I told you, it is school. I teach in school and I take many classes. You understand? And I've taught in so many schools now in Kano. So many schools. And all of these schools, no class is less than 45 students that I taught. For the past 30 years, that is what I have been doing. So how many I teach now? I cannot tell. But I know I have taught a lot of people painting. The outcome of it now, I can see people are people are developing interest in painting. And alhamdulillah, they see female in it. People are now coming out to appreciate painting. Like though I forgot to mention to you that we have this Society of Nigerian Artists. We are shouting out to people, getting people, reaching to them, so that they will now understand painting, and that it is not only drawing, it is a way of life, because some people don't even know that painting is a profession. They don't know it. So now myself and members of the society, we are reaching out to people to get them to understand painting and drawing as well. Over the years, my painting, I delve mostly in culture. Any environment I find myself, I now tend to go into I see the culture, the kind of people that are there, like I now work with what they have there. My painting is mostly culture and educative as well. Anytime we hold an art exhibition, I do sell painting. And besides, when I was in school, visitors used to come and buy my paintings. That is why I lost count of my painting. Then I didn't know I should be counting them. As I'm working, people tend to come in and appreciate the work. By the time I'm working, they will tell me, okay, if you are through with this, I'm going to buy it. Some, by then, I even used to give it free of charge. I didn't know it is something that I should be counting or something I should keep as a sign. But much later now, I come to realize that every piece of my painting is like a child to me. So from there, then I've started counting them. But the previous one I did, I cannot precisely tell their numbers. Now people are buying art and decorating their houses, and even places of interest now. And if you go around Kano, you will see that there are places that are decorated with paintings. You understand? So that is how we are reaching out to people. Even the government now, they do commission artists to come and do paintings in strategic places like what do you call it, recreation centers. Even in hospital, we even have paintings in hospitals where we educate people, you understand, on say a kind of disease. Like now we have this COVID-19 around. You need to see the kind of illustration painters are doing to make it easier for people to understand what they should do and what not should do. Start of COVID-19, honestly, I've been able to make 1 or 2 paintings to illustrate COVID-19 here in Kano using the kind of materials I have around me. For instance, now, okay, it's there behind you, so you can, yes, after I will show it to you. It's something I use, a plant that comes out in ball like this. So I use that kind of plant now I paint it and I use it and I name it as COVID-19. I would like to advise the government, because anyway, almost everything on earth, people will say government should do something, government should do very well. But would I go to encourage artists and help us appreciate the work of art we do. Anytime they have anything to do with illustration or like kind of needing to inform people about something, we would like them to encourage us artists, to involve us artists to do those kind of things for them. Instead of them going outside getting those kind of illustration, billboard around, whatever, where there are artists around. So we like government to encourage us, like they do release funds for agriculture, they release funds for education, they should release funds for visual artists too. They should do that. Yes, government should do that. We also like people to appreciate our work. People should not just sit and say, oh, drawing. Drawing is a way of life. And art is not only drawing. Like you're standing there, you're wearing a hat, a cloth, a long trouser, it's art. You combine things on you to make you to beautify yourself, isn't it? So that is art. Art is a way of life. COVID-19 have affected the patronage very, very well. Yes, it has. But that is not withstanding, that is not stopping us from doing what we're doing, because it is not only foreigners that patronize our paintings. It's not only foreigners. So we are doing what we do, and then, painting, it is something you can do and keep. With time, those foreigners will come. You are a client, you say, I want so thing to be painted. From there, I, as an artist, I will now see and sit down and think of what it is you want. First, if I like, I can make sketch on paper. Then I will now move on. Possibly it is a design you want. You mention the size of the design you want. Then I prepare my canvas. The process in preparing canvas, you need your easel, like what you see here is the easel stand, and then you need canvas, like I told you, this is it. You need, this is a white cloth that we use on it. Then you use emulsion paint to coat it several times so that it will be hard. Then you now use your oil color. If it is oil color you use, or acrylic color, you have so many medium.
Holding on to hope can provide strength and resilience if tomorrow is truly assured. Is our tomorrow assured? Ours is a hopeless renewal. Just 2 years into a 4-year term of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, him and his team are already fixated on a second term, despite their inability to ensure the security and welfare of the average Nigerians as provided by the Constitution. Anyway, you can say the opposition party also are discussing 2027 and attempting to form a coalition front against the president's ambition in 2027. Anyway, typically, one can say why it is the responsibility of the ruling party to govern well, to remain in power. It is also the duty of the opposition party to find a common front to defeat a ruling party. they are all playing politics. After all, when President Tinubu did opposition, he himself seek coalition against the then ruling government of People's Democratic Party, PDP. However, the question is this ruling party governing well? And are the opposition actually ready for a coalition? Even though some of us know the answer, but just follow me small. Make we attempt the answer together. You will agree with me that the current opposition is not as fierce as Tinubu and his team, where they were in opposition and formed the All Progressive Congress, then nicknamed Angry Politicians Congress. For the current opposition to be taken seriously, they must show purposefulness and selflessness. Not this one where we see our serial contestants. See, they position himself to run against Tinubu in 2027. Or in some cases where some person for Port Harcourt who don't take government since 1999, from speaker to governor to minister, and the first 2 years where they host the outside of government, they're already feeling hot. The opposition must be ready to sit back and support credible candidates. Otherwise, I don't call anybody name, Sha. I just give free advice where they no sick. Now to the next question. Imagine the arrogance of the ruling party. He's just midterm into the tenure of this government. And why is the people they swore to protect are crying of hunger and waiting for the promised hope that, they promised in their campaign? The 2027 election is already in their mind as if it is 6 months away. They are busy endorsing the president for a second term, not on the basis of performance, but because of coercion and state capture. As people now even jokingly say that the electoral umpire, INEC, is now an arm of the ruling party. Oh, my show. Anyway, so assessing the midterm performance of the administration, I will say why the President Tinubu's twin policy of subsidy removal from fuel and unification of the forest, an increase in the price of electricity and other essential infrastructural services is putting more money in the hands of the state and federal government, even though, they are still consistently borrowing. This policy, I can say, has ensured relative stability in the financial market. And then also, you have power more than the epileptic power supply in some areas. And then consistently, though expensive, PMS at the gas station, courtesy Dangote and others, because NNPC know they work. But however, the hunger and the general insecurity in the land is rising in quadruple as these ordinary citizens can no longer afford the basic necessities of life. So why the president has consistently informed Nigeria that he feels our pain, I can assure you that the reforms are necessary for a better future. On the contrary, the people around the presidents, including members of our National Assembly and the governors, are living as though we're in economic boom, as their convoy and retinue of cars and aids, including that of the president, is now longer than necessary. You just imagine, in 24 months, President Tinubu has borrowed about 17.8 billion from the World Bank. And the ordinary man is not feeling it. I don't have a problem with borrowing, though. It must be put to purposeful use. Because the president has deprived the public of subsidy as sustainable. Nobody's arguing with that. But yet, the government has continued to subsidize the lifestyle of political class as their ostentatious lifestyle continue to put a lie to the narrative that there's hunger and pain in the land, in the mind of outsiders. Now, EFCC, they are more fixated on arresting Yahoo boys and those that abuse the naira than dealing with official corruption. Insecurity, kidnapping, and killing in the country has become an acceptable phenomenon as we now wake up daily to pay condolences to friends and family in various states. Plateau is still in our mind. Why the government is celebrating their midterm scorecard with the creation of regional development agencies or commission? Are they talking about sustainable funding for these agencies? There's no clear-cut policy direction from both the federal and the state government on their next 2 years' agenda and realizable economic plan and program with actualization data and timeline on poverty alleviation, education, small and low-income housing, wealth creation, industrialization, gender equality, fiscal federalism, state policing, banditry, terrorism, open grazing, and even the value of the life of the ordinary Nigerian. What does it mean to them, apart from all of this blind endorsement here and there? Nobody is thinking of changing our education curriculum from job seekers to job creators as we continue to sell our raw materials and then import finished goods. What can one really point to in the last 2 years of this administration that has truly inspire hope in the ordinary Nigeria, apart from the hope to APC and their acolytes, and even some other politicians at the state level? Anyway, Their supporters will always tell them that, Your Excellency are the best thing to happen to Nigeria after independence. Anyway, it is not new because people before you were told the same thing. And people that will come after you will be told the same thing. So for us, Nigerians, in the midst of all of this crisis, we must continue to lift up the Nigerian spirit and ensure that the discussion, the conversation, both in government and in opposition, is centered around creating purposeful governance that will truly guarantee urban and rural housing development, creation of a knowledge-based economy, ensure a safe environment and country, enable industrialization and increase productivity capacity, build sustainable infrastructure, and ensure food sufficiency and security, because these are the things that will actually enhance our local currency and grow economy in the long run. Otherwise, without these things, if the opposition and people in government let them campaign from now till 2033 or 2050, the situation will keep nosediving from bad to worse. And this set of the politicians might be remembered someday as the ones that visited enormous pain on the people, despite having enough money in their pockets. So I will therefore advocate, irrespective of the coalition of the opposition, President Tinubu should avoid the temptation of jumping on the bandwagon of 2027 campaign in 2025 when he's yet to deliver on the promises of 2023. His primary objective now should be how to fund a research that will give him a clear vision on how to turn the developmental tide of this country in the next 2 years, using the low-hanging fruits indices like fighting insecurity headlong, making farms safer, creating task force on communal farming to drive mechanized farming at every local government area in the country, monitor and adequately fund and change the curriculum of technical education in the country to develop collaboration that will genuinely create industries that will turn our raw materials into finished product here in Nigeria rather than exporting them. And there are other opportunities too. That way, he would not be afraid of the gathering of the opposition, as the masses who would have benefited from his program would be the ones to do the campaign while he goes to sleep on election day, and they will just wake him to come and say, come and continue. These things are not rocket science. But anyway, I guess where you are in government, you don't see clearly until you're outside of government. That is why when you're outside of government, you criticize. Once you get there, you are blind. Anyway, make I stop here so that we can also listen to your comment on all our social media platforms shown on your screen. And please feel free to share so that them say go to hear our voice. They say once you choose hope, anything is possible. But here in Nigeria, they shoved hope down our throat and everything became impossible. See you next Holding on to hope can provide strength and resilience if tomorrow is truly assured. Is our tomorrow assured? Ours is a hopeless renewal. Just 2 years into a 4-year term of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, him and his team are already fixated on a second term, despite their inability to ensure the security and welfare of the average Nigerians as provided by the Constitution. Anyway, you can say the opposition party also are discussing 2027 and attempting to form a coalition